Hello, and welcome to the Robot Wars History Podcast, a podcast where we chart the development of this show and the British robot combat scene in general by looking at key teams and bots. I'm your host Luke, and with me today is my co-host Dan.
Hello.
And our special guest, AlexTheHunted.
I'm special.
Oh my god, Luke is back.
I know it's been too long, but worry not. Robot Wars may never come back, but I have.
Oh, boo! You.
Save it.
I bet when this gets released, there's like announced that it's been brought
Save
back.
us,
Yeah,
Dave.
by the time it's released, yes.
Oh,
And
God.
today we are covering everyone's favourite, because it's one of the only, robots from good old Ireland, Team Nemesis, with Nemesis and
I don't think you. I think you're not kidding. Like, all the robots in Robot Wars, like, you know, you've got your Razor haters and your Hypnodisc haters and your Chaos 2 haters and your Carbide haters. I don't think anyone hates this team or Diet or Nemesis.
I mean, to hit a team, you've got to have a real heart of stone.
Yeah. Or the only time you've seen him is that really shitty Extreme 1 thing where they supposedly sabotage Firestorm. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But seriously, beloved by everyone.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is such a just a fun robot.
When you think of Robot Wars, one of the first things you think of is that fur and that smile.
Yeah. Well,
It all started with that smile. That damn smile.
Oh god.
Anyway, we have a lot to cover, so let's just get right into it. Start off with Series 1, Nemesis. Take us away, Statsman Dan.
Well, okay, so
A large cake-like object.
it looks kind of like a cross between a chair and a cake.
Very well put, yes.
Yeah, it's obviously all of Team Nemesis machines are covered in bright red fur with dots on them, as you should be able to see on the screen if you're watching this and not just listening. And they have
The fur virus.
big stupid grin on their faces, and Nemesis clocks in at 76 kilograms, so pretty solid for Series 1 machines where they were like fucking middleweights and lightweights mixed in with the heavies.
And super heavyweights.
Yep, that too. In this very same heat, of course. The legendary robot that is Barry is around. It had a top speed of 6 miles per hour, so, you know...
Standard.
Yeah, very, very
Not
standard.
bad for Series 1.
Yeah, again, not terrible for the point we're in. Good old zero turning circle, because... God, the stats in the old series are so much more informative. It's so much better. It was powered by 24-volt batteries. And which is exactly the sort of same amount of power outputted by the eventual Heat winner Roadblock. And it was armed with a pneumatic spike, because of course, spikes are such an excellent weapon in Robot Wars.
Yeah,
And static spikes. Don't forget the static spikes all over the body.
Yeah, that is a classic Series 1 to 2 thing. Just have a lot of spikes on the body, but you bod around like 6 miles an hour, so they couldn't possibly do anything.
Yep.
Well, actually, no, this spike did do something, as we'll see in Series 1 fight.
Yeah.
So, Nemesis has a very straightforward, literally, it just goes straight ahead in the gauntlet, but in its trial is where we get the good stuff. For it humiliates Shunt right after Roadblock does the same, which makes me think this is why they only did Sumo once between Series 1 and 4.
Well, here's the thing I noticed about the Series 1 Sumo is they made Shunt use like the snowplow part, not the scoop part. The part that's, you know, meant for Sumo.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if like you see in the Kilotron Sumo, it's like Shunt just goes to the side every time it tries to hit with a snowplow.
Which
Yes.
isn't the right way you're supposed to do that. But yeah,
Not typically, no.
it is quite impressive that Nemesis manages to do that, and it's prophetic of how overhyped perhaps this robot's descendants' pushing power will eventually come to be. And that's
Yes.
that's not foreshadowing at all.
Here's the thing: I know you guys love to shit on Shunt from Series 1 and 2, and quite rightly, because Series 1 and 2 Shunt was a piece of shit.
It was.
Because it couldn't drive. Well, no, they couldn't. Whoever they put in charge of driving it, just I don't know. They couldn't drive it. So when Series 3 came along, they must have changed drivers, because Shunt became look, it shouldn't became just so good in series 3, 4, still a bit in 5, 6 didn't really do anything, and 7 it was a joke.
Yeah.
Mick could have had a side gig in 1 and 2, I guess. Now, after a pretty good trial, Nemesis has a quite unfortunate heat final against it's because
Heat
it's
final?
doing well. Sorry, heat semi-final. Yes, because Nemesis falls victim of the producers absolutely freaking out the second they see a lick of flame, which. Yeah, Nemesis was rather doomed in Series 1, I feel, because at some
Yeah,
point...
that actually
this
raises
is
an
one of
interesting point about the origin of the fur, because the fur was only put on the robot in the first place because Team Nemesis had read the rules and saw that flamethrowers weren't allowed as weapons, and they then assumed that there would be no fire. They didn't realise that there were going to be flame pits in the arena, and also one of the house robots was going to have a flamethrower turret on it.
Yes.
And also considering how much Dietor goes up in flames in the future, that the producers freaked out over this.
Yeah,
There's going up.
Yeah,
To be fair, have you seen how incredibly bad the safety standards on the Series 1 arena were?
Oh yeah, I saw the making of where they literally just threw a guy in the arena with a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
You see, yeah. I mean, this is like a rare moment of thinking about safety in the original series.
Yeah. But this fight also has one of the few times that a pneumatic spike ever did damage, because Nemesis's spike went right through Roadblock's side.
That's not the biggest achievement, but you credit where it's due. Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty notable, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but considering that looking at some of the episodes now that re-uploaded in HD, like I know how in Series 1 you had to go at Kilotron's axe for not being very powerful, but when you see in the Roadblock fight when Kilotron hits it with the with its spike, you can see basically just a huge dip, a huge dent form in Roadblock.
That will happen when you have.
To be fair,
Roadblock's
Yeah, it's a fucking road sign. It's not exactly the most durable thing around.
So after a pretty unfortunate Series 1, Nemesis returns. Pretty similar for Series 2, except this time it's got cool slicing lobster claws, to borrow the show's terminology on the sides.
It's literally the same robot from Series 1, isn't it?
Same gaping ground clearance and all.
Yep, 50mm ground clearance. That's not a good thing to be in Robot Wars.
And it didn't have casters, so it would rock backwards and forwards all the time.
Yeah, and it has the misfortune of being placed into the same heat as Roadblock again.
And this was a stacked heat.
It is, yeah. There's some solid machines in here. You got Kilohertz and Onslaught and Roadblock are in there, and then to a lesser extent Rox and Limpet.
Limpet was. I mean, it was too slow, but it was a pretty decent design.
That's true.
But
yeah, it's a big invertible tracked wedge. That's not too bad.
But yeah, I mean, considering that, and also if you actually rewatch the you know that recently that Robot Wars Revealed episode was recently uploaded with Roadblock's heat, and they did a bit of stuff where they talked about each robot. When they talked about Nemesis, they have a clip of Zulu welding Nemesis chassis together, and Zulu accidentally welded the motors to the chassis.
That's a good thing to bring. That's a good thing to bring up. Series 2 does see the arrival of Dr. Zulu, a wonderful personality, and probably the reason they won so many sportsmanship awards, because by all accounts, including messages on the hilarious Dietor website, the most 2000s thing ever. Dr. Zulu basically was like the welding fairy godmother of Robot Wars, helping everyone out.
Because I would highly recommend you re-watching that Robot Wars Revealed episode when I talk about Nemesis, because it is basically, you'd see why everyone loves these guys, because they also have stuff written underneath Dietor. Underneath Nemesis, where it's Zulu, URA, and then it has the hand covering it. and
Too racy for BBC Choice.
but yeah, they're talking about reboots like who's the one who in the Dietor team
Joe
who has
Gavin.
glasses on? Joe Gavin. He's going on like, yeah, Zulu's been welding that bloody robot. It's about 20 kilos of 20 kilos of robot, about 60 kilos of welds. It's like he's just going out. There's a weld. Points at the bolt where the motor's attached. There's a weld, so that's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Nemesis gets second place in the gauntlet.
Yeah, it has a pretty straightforward gauntlet at trial. It's mostly just
Apart
from
burning.
flames again.
That's all it does. It gets burned.
It goes for the route with Bash and the flame pit on it, and then manages to squeeze past Killer Lot and makes it to the end. It gets overall it gets second place behind Roadblock and
Which I do love, because I wonder if they feel like, even if we go out in the round, if we go out in the gauntlet, we're just going to go, let's just set this thing on fire straight away.
yeah. Oh god. At this point, they've already embraced the idea that they are just there to burn.
Wait, I'm just forgetting. Didn't they put a cutting disc on the back of Nemesis?
I
in
don't
this
think
series?
so. No, I don't see one.
No, they no. But
I thought they did.
it's-
at this point they then have to go into the Skittles, which is of course the trial that is most well known for Peace to Resistance failing to even shove a fucking barrel.
Yeah,
And Christ, when you Heat A, when the lowest scoring in this heat would have won Heat A's Skittles.
Why wasn't this Heat A?
Why wasn't any other heat the Heat A?
Yeah, I know what we should put out first. Fucking napalm.
Because I know originally Heat A was supposed to have Cassius in it.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. But no, unfortunately, that didn't pan out.
No, but yeah, and also this was this trial where the champion nearly went out.
Yeah.
Roadblock came second last, and this is the only and Dietor, not Dietor. I keep saying, sorry, I'm so used to saying Dietor when thinking about that robot. When Nemesis didn't they come second?
Yeah, I believe so. But they get
Basically, this is what you get for having a giant robot that can spin around.
Yeah.
Because they had the barrels like stuck to the spikes and everything on it at the end of it.
Yep. And so they make it through the. Apparently they finished third, not second. But they got a score of 38.
Yeah, kilohertz and
And they made it to the arena semi-final stage and once again lost.
Well, they enter as they promised earlier with a kebab on board because, of course.
But they don't catch fire.
No, that's the thing. I fucking love this because I've got the ultimate guide to Robot Wars. I still have it. It's the same book that claims that 101's weapon was a vertical flywheel. They specifically notes that Nemesis entered the arena with a kebab attached in anticipation of the fire, and then immediately ended up in the pit instead.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't immediately end up in the pit because it was driving like Onslaught for some reason just decided to drive into the PPZ.
Well, because
and for one of the few times where a robot goes into the PPZ and doesn't instantly lose.
I mean that's because Onslaught had more motors than sense. Its drive motor was bigger than kilowatts, I believe. But
then, just this is one of the few times where it just died.
Yeah. Onslaught was a massive drive motor attached to 4 wheels and a flipping plow. That was just the entire robot.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about Nemesis is it's got a massive ground clearance, so it's helpless against both a wedge and a good pusher. Onslaught's both,
Yeah.
so this battle was only ever going to go one way.
Apparently, it turns out that the reason that it had died was because it actually did catch fire. Like a very small part of its fur had been ignited by the pit's pyrotechnics, and yeah,
The one piece of fur that's somehow important, yes.
yeah.
But so
Fucking
Nemesis goes out, except for one thing. the most. I mean, this was. I feel like this was inevitable, and this also shows the massive change in attitude. Series 1, oh god, they've got a little bit of flame, put it out. Series 2, chuck them in an inferno insurrection, douse them in paraffin, and burn them.
Yeah, it's introduced. It's introduced as Chef Nemesis. It's got a fucking hat on it as well as the kebab.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah. And you got just also this has one of my favorite moments where you notice when they fight and they start up on the Nemesis team. I can't remember who it is, but when they fire up Sergeant Bash's flamethrower, one of the Nemesis team like jumps. You like see it jump. You see them jump. It's like
yeah.
So I mean, like, I think in summary, what Nemesis is it's like a very standard Series 1-2 machine. It's got a lot of ground clearance, it's covered in all these useless static weapons, and it's able to chug along and nudge other robots about, but second it meets a good pusher...
But what are you talking about? This isn't the last we've seen of Nemesis.
It comes back in another form. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
With the exception of the fucking featherweight episode, how well do you think it could have done in other heats of Series 1 and 2? Because I don't think it's a particular...
Well, that's the thing, like, series... It probably wouldn't... It wouldn't have won Heat... It wouldn't have won Heat B. It probably would have gone out in the Heat
second,
semi-finals.
in Series 1, second it catches fire, it's dead. And in Series 2, I can't think of any semi-finalist it could stand a chance against. And I include Napalm, because Napalm's got a wedge.
Yeah, but Napalm also managed to win all of its fights basically by losing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, like, Series 1... Maybe Tracy's Heat?
I think the second
could've won.
I think if it's in the arena long enough, it'll get burned and it'll go out. So we
So,
move on to
with the-
Dietor.
Yep, this is the robot that it became most well known for.
When the team that... I mean, let's be honest, like... Nemesis was liked, but Dietor was the robot that
Yes.
became the legend.
Yeah. Like, this is the robot that everybody remembers when talking about this team.
Yeah, I mean, it was the bot they had for the majority of the time, and
Yeah.
this saw it finally get a weapon that wasn't a bunch of spikes and lobster arms, and it had a
Not a particularly good
no,
one, to be
it
fair.
went with a flipper.
A weapon nobody else used. This is
Yes.
a unique weapon.
It went with a flipper, but it went with a spring-loaded flipper. The intention was this would let it flip without losing power over time. Of course, this didn't really work out.
Yeah.
It broke all the time,
yeah.
it took a long time to reload, and it was never, ever strong enough to self-right them.
You say that, but if you happen to play the game Robot Wars Arenas of Destruction and fight Dietor, that flipper...
Dietor is one of the best robots in the game.
That flipper keeps going constantly, and it will just rip armor off of other robots.
And Extreme Destruction, the Dietor in that. It's also one of the best robots to drive in that game because it's so slow you can control it.
Yeah, but Dietor itself as a machine, its name translates to Annihilator in Irish.
Yes, it won a competition. Someone won a competition to enter that name.
Which is...
But also deliberately picked to be as difficult a name for Craig Shells to pronounce.
I mean...
Oh god, how
And as we go through Series 3, they find every other way to pronounce Dietor.
Diotior. And it was like Diotior for like half of Series 3.
I think at one point they say
And,
like
like,
Diochor. With like a
Yeah, it wasn't even just Craig that was calling it that. Like,
It was Deer 4 at one point as well.
the announcer and Jonathan Pierce are calling it that as well.
I think even when they in the World Series, maybe I'm wrong here, but even Dara O'Brien says it.
No,
yeah,
Dara
Dara
can't
O'Brien
pronounce
says it wrong despite being
Dara
Irish.
he says Deer 4.
Yeah, but maybe that's just Dara's voice.
But yes,
Well, that's the thing is that Dara had no problem pronouncing Dan Tonk here, but
yeah, but maybe he's a fan.
yeah, it's a good thing it's the Irish word, because if they were named Annihilator, that might be even funnier. But Dietor enters Series 3 and upon entering, they had to take it apart at customs and put it all back together. That would become a problem. They have a pretty dull fight against Sting too, but they put on a good performance, a pretty dominant performance against Steel Avenger, putting their flipper to good use.
It should be noted at this juncture that before we rush on too far ahead, the robot's full name is Dietor, son of Nemesis.
Oh yes. Yes, they
I fucking love that.
And also, as we kind of rushed over, the reason why I think they had to take Dietor apart was, if you look at its flipping arm, it looks like
this
a
is
barrel
only
of
and this is
shotgun.
only what, a year after Good Friday, so coming over from a bit cagey, yes.
Yeah, just a little tiny bit.
Yeah, but still, it. And also the team just in their first fight, they just Pierre Redmond just wants to lose and go home.
Yeah,
but I mean,
Dietor was as far as this heat goes, it's another really stacked one. I mean, aside from Crash and Asher and Terminal Ferocity, because
I mean, if it was drawn against Facet,
undoubtedly.
Yeah, you've got the Steel Avenger in there, which isn't a terrible machine. It's a
Shumi
average
2.
mid-carder. Yeah, Shumi 2's not bad. This Sting 2's pretty crap. But you've got Facet, which is a genuinely good robot, and just happened to get a bad draw. And Firestorm, which is obviously goes on to be one of the series legends. And then you've got just Dietor chilling in there. It's only 79 kilograms, so it's not all the way up to the weight limit. It's got a fortunately much lower ground clearance this time, 0.02.
That's something Dietor always. It is always so low to the ground.
Yeah, it's now powered by wheelchair motors. It doesn't list the voltage because the details just get worse and worse.
Wasn't at some point it said it was petrol powered?
Probably. It certainly makes a lot of noise, but I've given the amount of times it gets lit on fire, I'm assuming that it probably wasn't petrol powered. Otherwise, there would have been a bigger boom.
Yeah, at some point, yes.
Yeah.
I think it was at some series. Jonathan said it was petrol powered. I don't know, but that's Jonathan, so you can't really believe him.
Yeah. It's I love Peter Redmond's analysis of Dietor. It says, poor Dietor seems to be plagued by bad luck and bad timing. I mean, he works fine everywhere but Robot Wars. A little bit like Razor, I think. Which is clearly a Series 3 and 4 observation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think anyone was quite as worried when they saw themselves up against Dietor as they were when they saw themselves up against Razor.
So it dispatches Sting 2 very easily.
Pretty dull fight, ends with a pitting.
Yeah.
And its fight against Steel Avenger, this is one of the occasions where Dietor really puts the flipper to good use.
Yeah, which is a rarity for Dietor, in all honesty.
Yeah, and
I mean, and also when you look at it, you've got the Steel Avenger, which is the team that's taking it seriously. The fast, moderately powerful axe, engineered really well versus a thing that a polka dotted little flipper thing that catches fire.
And sure enough, it does catch fire.
Yeah.
Tremendously as well.
Oh yeah.
This is one of Dietor's best burnings.
Yeah. If you just look at the picture of it on fire, it is spectacular.
It takes out Steel Avenger and has a pretty inevitable loss against Firestorm.
Yeah.
That's something I've noticed looking back at Dietor. Every time it loses really shittily.
It's just immediate, nearly.
This heat final is one of the shortest in the series, I think.
Yeah, it's not a fantastic one. Though I will say, when we get to Series 5, I do love the way it lost there. But
I mean, how?
Yeah, if it faced off against Firestorm and it gets pushed into the wall, it manages to get under Firestorm, but then it hesitates and ends up being flipped over.
Yeah.
And as will become a long-running thing for Dietor, it cannot self-right.
That's pretty much apart from Onslaught, all of Dietor's losses are unable to self-right.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
No matter what modifications they tried, be it bars on the top of the flipper or a gripping arm later on, none of it worked.
Or having it be
none of it
invertible.
Yeah.
Even when it was invertible, it couldn't self-right.
Yep.
But
And
after that loss, go on.
Yeah, so it gets burned again, amusingly, and then things get a little bit interesting in the International League Championship.
Yeah,
which were a tournament that originally only existed to give Cassius a trophy, and then Cassius dropped out, and it became a tournament to give Razor another trophy because it was just the dregs of who hadn't gone home after the World Championship.
I mean, I think we can pretty much cover International League and World together. I mean, Dietor gets a guaranteed spot because it's one of the few robots around that is actually from a separate country and isn't. Oh, I think Dominic Parkinson went on holiday to Prague once.
Oh yeah, the stretch they had to make for Kilohertz in the Czech Republic.
And also in the World Championships, Dietor's the only robot in the semi-final that isn't from England.
Yeah. I mean, but the interesting thing about International League is that Terra Australis, fresh off getting its arse handed to it by Mortis, drops out and is replaced by Nemesis.
Indeed,
they give the Australian team a furless Nemesis and send it into the arena against Dietor.
And it's father versus son.
Yeah, and Terra Australis gets his arse handed.
I've also got a theory because also there's another fight. There's a fight again where Terra Australis fights Mortis, and I wonder if that was a re-recording of the World Championship fight.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Because it's kind of coincidental that this so-called Ashes fight just so happened to be against the two robots that fought each other in the World Championship.
Perhaps. But in true Oedipal fashion, Dietor dispatches of its predecessor without much hassle because you got nice law Dietor and you've got floating Nemesis.
Yeah.
And in International and World, Dietor has 2 matches against the Belgian representatives, the Poposaurus Rex, and both times it puts on a pretty good performance. In one it gets him, one it just basically flips him around and gets him pitted, and the second one it has a pretty tense fight.
And
yeah.
But also I've got to remember how slow both these robots are.
Yeah, and after all that, and after battling, after its victories over the Poposaurus Rex and its battle with its own predecessor, it gets to fight Razor.
Yeah, who only had one other fight at that point. Because the other fight it had, the robot just withdrew.
Yeah, because it broke down, and unfortunately there wasn't another Nemesis to give them.
Where was Roadblock? Because that was there at Series 3. That was an untelevised fight of Roadblock versus Beast of Bodmin.
That would have been interesting, but so it's they end up actually colliding and pushing each other for a bit, but Dietor doesn't really have much hope of getting underneath Razor.
And also, this was the point where they ran out of fur.
Yeah, so it's got half of its fur missing.
One amusing thing,
and it gets
one amusing thing I did note when I was watching it. When you hear Razor appears them, if you listen closely, it almost sounds like the audience is booing. Which, if it's true, then we finally found a robot that the audience loved more than Razor.
This is the first episode I ever
Everybody
saw.
doesn't see it all.
What an introduction, eh?
Well, you see, I was like 3 years old, and there was maybe 4, and there was this silver bird dinosaur-looking thing on the screen, utterly destroying everything in its path, and that just sold it for me.
Yeah, this is why you love Razor, because it puts on such a nice performance and gets some nice shitbots in Dietor to chew on.
Yeah, like it's not even a good episode. They're not even really that good Razor.
What gets me is, why was this the bloody pilot that they sent across the world?
Yeah, why didn't they send the World Championships out instead? Because at least that's a good fucking episode.
No, we gotta have Razor bite into a box.
I mean, it bites into that box really well.
Anyway, after that tangent about
With the
Razor,
team.
it's in its first world championship performance. It has obviously its other fight with Dipoposaurus
This
Rex,
one's
and ultimately
this one's a good fight because Dietor
yeah.
shows off.
Yeah.
What the World
And
Championship does show is Dietor isn't just like this joke bot. It can do pulling like good performances. It does it against the Poposaurus, chucking it over a few times. Although
It beats Cerberus, which, let's be honest, actually looking back, Cerberus's only wins were through the
yeah, Cerberus isn't a
Yeah.
very good design for a robot. But I mean,
I'm just thinking, I'm just remembering Cerberus's win. Like, Kilohertz drove into the pit, Griffin didn't work, Mauler had to withdraw, and Smidsy and
Yeah.
something broke down.
but I
Yup.
mean against
Not a
against Cerberus, it's
not a good robot.
like it just controls them throughout the entire fight. Basically, it's able to outpush them, which was supposed to be Cerberus's selling point, I suppose. It was supposed to be a decent pusher, but it wasn't. No,
Cerberus was supposed to have a weapon, and they just never had one.
That
because
too.
They kept putting them
That
over the
too.
weight limit, or just breaking.
Well, also the tail was supposed to be a lifter as well.
Yeah, and that clearly didn't materialize. Cerberus gets flipped onto its side, and eventually rolled onto its back.
yes,
And, it results in a
A legitimate win for Dietor.
a clean and dominant victory for Dietor.
indeed.
Which is always a nice thing. And then Dietor gets
Yeah.
set on
And
fire
then it fights Behemoth.
and tries to push Dead Metal into the pit. So
Yeah, that's
you know,
Yeah.
just for an extra bit of Robot Wars. And then it gets the inevitable downfall that is its fight with Behemoth.
yeah.
And,
Which is just 5 minutes of Behemoth toying
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, it's a pretty obvious. It's an inevitable loss.
And I will say,
Uh,
until the reboot, I kind of think that maybe Series 3 Behemoth was kind of the best in relation to the quality of the rest of the tournament. It's just got so unlucky with that arena spike in the heat final. I think it could have gone a decent way. Certainly better than the other ones that just kind of crapped out. But it gets.
But yeah, Behemoth absolutely took. It basically just played with it
Yes.
for 5 minutes.
Yep, and surprisingly, it gets set on fire. you
But
know?
I think by then
It's
they
kind
must
of
have been pretty like, oh god, we don't have enough.
Wasn't Dietor wearing an eye patch at this point
What's
as well?
The-
Didn't Dietor have an eye patch on at this
Yeah, I
point
think
as well?
Probably.
That sounds like the sort.
Yeah, but the
It's the
thing
sort
is,
of
They
thing
ran
they
out of
do.
googly eyes as well.
The thing is, Behemoth is because Behemoth is having such a dominant performance. It does keep writing Dietor even after it gets flipped over, and the end result of this is that Dietor actually finishes the match in the ascendancy. Like, despite being burnt and rolled over for the entire match, it manages to get to Behemoth's side and starts pushing it sideways across the arena, right up until the moment where cease is called.
And knowing Behemoth's look, every time they were writing, you just think every time that they write Dietor, like, Behemoth's just gonna drive down the pit or break down.
Yeah,
I mean, if
that's some of that infamous Behemoth luck is going to catch up to them.
yeah, I mean, if Dietor
And,
had managed to flip then and gone through against Razor, then that would have been just an
Christ, that means Dietor would have been seeded
Yeah,
6 in
yeah, that would have
Series
been
4.
quite-
That would have been that would have been amazing.
Speaking of Series 4,
It should be noted that once again Dietor won the Sportsmanship Award.
yes, good old Kieran Byrne, as is his legal name.
Yeah, and it gets drawn once again. It gets drawn into the same heat as the robot that defeated it in the previous.
Beat
war.
it in the last series.
Last time it was in the same heat as Firestorm, and this time it's in the same heat as Firestorm.
Now, Dietor had a pretty it had a pretty unfortunate series of events. First, it has to be dismantled at customs, and when it arrives, they had 10 minutes to get it working. They were 6 kilograms overweight.
And the speed controller blew, didn't it?
Not the speed controller, but they did have to ditch top armor. And when they went to test their weapon, the first chain broke, and then they added a replacement chain connecting the spring the springs to the ram, that also broke. So they went in armorless and weaponless, and they are dispatched within the first few seconds.
Yeah, it gets.
This Detour doesn't even
Yeah,
really
that's the
move.
thing.
No,
That's the
It
thing.
just
I think
stays in
even
the-
if they had gone in with a weapon, it wouldn't have mattered because Mace dispatches of them in the first 5 seconds of the fight.
Mace.
Yeah, Ming gets over
Oh,
it immediately.
Mace,
And just flips
Yeah,
it
sorry,
over.
Mace wasn't even in
Sorry,
Series
mate,
4.
I get them confused quite a bit.
How?
No, they're similar names.
Yeah.
Series.
One of them's a
One
varying
actually
robot that
wins.
eventually evolves into a shitty Razor clone and an even shittier drill.
Well, they've got. I said they have similar names, not similar robots.
But yeah, it gets put into the arena with Ming 2 and Bolt from the Blue, and that was a fight that I don't think even if it was
Salt from the
working
Blue.
and that Detour could have won.
I mean, yeah,
because it's in against 2 flippers.
and let's be real. It was gonna come across Ming at some point, and Ming was going to flip them. Because I mean, Ming's not gonna go. The first time Ming charges at Bolt from the Blue and fails to get under him, it's like, oh, I'll go after Detour then.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, Bolt from the,
or is
Bolt
that,
from the Blue
you keep saying Bolt from the Blue. I think you mean its official name, Salt from the Blue.
still better.
The only robot from the Lake District.
They are still bitter after all these fucking years. It has been 18 years and they are still bitter.
That doesn't.
Yeah, but I want to say good sportsmanship to the Detour team, because unlike other Robot Wars teams that would just, their robot doesn't work, then it has a shit fit, it goes out really easily in the first round, they would just pack up and go home. They basically enter it into everything.
You may as well. You've made the trip over to Ireland, from Ireland rather.
Yeah. I understand. Of course, this is a very good thing when it's Detour. It makes Extreme One a little boring when the robot doing it is Tornado.
Yes. I was going to say we can't quite go on to Extreme yet because we do have a celebrity special to discuss.
Yeah, I mean,
do we want to quickly go over its sumo and pinball runs?
it gets dispatched in 3.95 seconds by Shunt and finishes.
It gets the
16th
worst
sumo.
ever recorded sumo run, which is basically Shunt getting his revenge
just like
on
fuck you,
Series
I'm
one.
not going to. I ain't going to snowplow this time.
And then it gets, in Pinball Warrior, would you believe it gets set on fire?
And gets one of the best runs in the series.
Every time filming came around, the company that produces that polka dot must have just been like, yes! For that 1 week or so, their sales jumped by 400%.
Shares in that fair always go up every time Detour's in the ring.
Yeah, because obviously they turned up with fucking sheets, They turned up with fucking sheets and stuff because it got burned off in every fight, pretty much. And they also kept giving bits of it to everybody that beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's what you say. Is I think the hallmark is if you see Detour fur on a robot, that means that the team helped repair it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, in its celebrity special, where it's represented by Vic Reeves, where Luke trivia fact of the day,
this is an amazing
Vic
matchup.
Reeves, one of 5 people on Robot Wars to have a #1 single in Britain. That's true, by the way.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
and it comes so obviously all of the robots were modified in some way for the celebrity special, just with these ridiculous cosmetic upgrades. So Detour shows up with this massive oversized pair of Vic Reeves glasses. It's got
and an arse.
It's got a rubber arse attached to it.
And a frying pan.
novelty frying pan.
and
then
But I gotta say, some of these celebrity specials, some of the teams clearly were just there for a quick paycheck. Vic Reeves was absolutely loving it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and apparently, just an extra bit of kayfabe, he steals one of the quote-unquote Wild Thing team's toy rabbits, decapitates it, and puts the head in the frying pan. And
also, isn't the celebrity special where Craig Charles' kids first?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Team?
Yeah, he was definitely with them in Series 5.
Yes. So while Detour is going round with giant glasses and an arse on it, it scores combat victories over Wild Thing and Gemini, and comes close to beating.
Yeah, it beats the most.
God.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it
Well, I
doesn't
think
it doesn't
the-
beat them while they're being operated by Nick Adams and the regular and you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't come.
Yeah, Deitor beats the most reliable robot in the show.
And two of the
Yeah.
strongest flippers around, mostly because they keep fighting Dietor again. And
Yeah.
while it
Yeah.
does lose to Pussycat, it does manage to snag its blade with the fur while it's there.
It should be noted. It should be noted, of course, that Deitor does end up on fire.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. At this point, it's like what Jonathan says in the Extreme is what Deitor's on fire. Why am I surprised by that? Deitor's always on
They
fire.
are.
And yeah, and then, I mean, to be fair, Adam Woodyat almost drives almost drives Pussycat better than the actual Pussycat do the next time they're in the arena together in Extreme 1.
Yes. We move on to Extreme 1 and 5. Deitor's
Deitor's
Yeah,
in pretty
Deitor
much
I don't
everything.
think has actually changed that much. I don't think it's taken advantage of the full weight increase.
No, Deitor does have some modifications done to it at this point.
I was going to say, what are you talking about? This is a completely
Is it?
new robot in Extreme.
I mean,
2.
I know it has
In
a new.
Extreme.
I know it has
It's
a
a
new
completely new
flipper
robot in
cell,
Extreme.
but
It's basically the Series 5 robot at this point. There are some minor differences between the two builds, but it is
The chassis is completely different because the wheels are pushed
right,
all the way
fair
to the
enough
front
then.
now.
yeah.
I didn't realise.
But yeah, I think that we kind of have a segue into the tag team terror, which is Deitor, perhaps one of Deitor's finest hours, aside from something we'll get to in Series 5. Where it initially gets paired up with Mega Morg, and
This was this was clearly get the champions through round one.
just shove Deitor and Mega Morg on a team, and then put them in against King B and 101, and then King B goes fucking berserk. And
yeah, this
101
yeah,
dies.
like I said, this was
the curse strikes
like you
too
said,
late.
this was
Yeah.
clearly like, oh, we'll have the champions go for and stick Deitor and Megaborg. They'll be good for some laughs, but no, they end up killing the champions.
that was the thing that happened.
The thing that always happens in the tag team tournaments, the
Yes.
champions go out in round one.
Yep, and then ultimately, this is the point where things get a little weird, and again, very heavily in Deitor's favour, because Mega Morg drops out, and when it comes time to choose their replacement, we said this back in our Plunderbird episode, but when Plunderbird drops out of the tag team terror in Extreme 1 because it drove into a door and broke itself, it gets replaced. Bigger Brother gets saddled with fucking Major Tom. But
I think it's kind of fair if you think about
Yes,
it, because
that is-
Bigger Brother was the big name robot in that group.
yeah,
Whereas Deitor was seen as the joke bot,
Yeah.
so they give it a good
yeah.
bot.
But here's the thing: when you think give it a good robot, you think something average good, mid level. No, they give it the at that point second place robot in the UK competition and pair it up with Pussycat.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, during the time of Series Extreme, Bigger Brother became the number 2
Yes,
robot.
but the series, I believe Extreme 1 was, Extreme 1 was obviously filmed at varying points before and after Series 5, and I think at least round 1 of the tag team was definitely one of the early things, because if you look at Bigger Brother during
Because
its round 1 fight,
Plunderbird's not shredded.
if you look at Bigger Brother during its round 1 fight there, it's clearly a significant amount of time before that, because it's this really weird hybrid design between the Series 4 and Series 5 builds, and every time the flipper fires, there's these two little puffs of these two little jets of CO2 that pump out of the corners of the robot, and it's not up to the standard that it will be in the tournament to come. So we're dealing with early days stuff here, and Bigger Brother wasn't anywhere near the big name that it would go on to be.
But then again, give it the number 2 seed, and Dietor does all the work.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's-
When you see this on paper, you think, okay, Pussycat is absolutely just going to carry Dietor. But no, Dietor easily puts on the more impressive performance in both fights. Because Pussycat's blade isn't even working against Spawn again and Come and Get a Vix.
Though to be fair, it's Spawn again and Come and Get a Vix. You know, they kind of deserve it.
Yeah.
And they both do what they become famous for. They break down immediately.
Yeah. And then in the Tag Team Terror final against Steel Avenger and Suicidal Tendencies.
I can't wait for your episode on Come and Get a Vix.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh,
That's
wow.
a 2-parter.
That's definitely one. And in this fight, Come and Get a Vix broke down. And in this fight, Come and Get a Vix broke down.
Yeah, we might have trouble getting people to record that one.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, in the tag team final, Pussycat spends the match getting bullied around basically by Suicidal Tendencies, and then Dietor comes in, like,
And
it's constantly
owns Steel Avenger.
it's like flipping Steel Avenger and keeping it on its back for like half the fight, and Dietor carries Pussycat, which makes no sense.
Yeah. It should be noted at this point that Dietor enters the arena for the Tag Team Terror final with one of Mega Morg's sheep on top of the scoop.
Classic.
Yep. It also has one of its eyes missing in this fight.
Again,
They probably ran out
of the series.
probably ran out with them.
Yeah. And unsurprisingly, it loses most of the fur during this fight.
Yes.
Actually, this is one of the few fights where Dietor doesn't catch fire.
Yeah, but it still manages to lose a lot of the fur. So, you know, that stuff just keeps going away. And,
Yeah.
I think...
I mean, it's a close match because obviously Suicidal Tendencies probably scores a lot of points by just grabbing Pussycat in a headlock basically and not letting go.
Pussycat has its holes from its fight with Tornado, which they just taped over.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, I think Dietor's kind of dominance of Steel Avenger and the attacks it does land on Suicidal Tendencies pulls it through. So Dietor does get a combat trophy.
Hey.
Yeah, funny to think, all the teams that never won a trophy, like you got Hypno Disc, but no, Dietor won a legitimate tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on the other extreme events.
Yeah,
I mean, it goes out in pretty much round 1 of all the fights.
But
I will say-
it gets drawn against Wheelie Big Cheese in the All Stars, where unsurprisingly it loses.
I know Mr. Psycho said in his video, why is Dietor an All-Star? It's because it's Dietor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Dietor's a weird one for All Stars because all the other ones are like recent semi-finalists, and like even Spawn again, who is a 2-time semi-finalist at this point, didn't get in. But you got to think, Dietor's been around since day one, and also Dietor is an All-Star in that it's got a lot of star power. It's a known name. Like if you're ranking the bots on terms of like who actually has that kind of draw. I bet
it's more deserving of an all-star place than, let's say, Exterminator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's an absolute
Exterminator's a baffling one, to be fair.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun thing to chuck in All Stars.
Yeah, and
like honestly, with All Stars, I would have made a case that you could have put like Plunderbird in there as well.
Yeah.
yeah,
Plunderbird v Dietor. Imagine that. Imagine Plunderbird versus Dietor.
I'd
The
bet on
sheer
Dietor for that one.
shenanigans.
But I mean, it has.
Actually, that's a fight I wish we had, because you know when they had the Vengeance with Chromalot and Plunderbird, I wish they would have made it a Mayhem and put Dietor in there as well.
Just make an Annihilator that is completely full of joke bots.
I mean, speaking of that, I mean, right, I know one thing Extreme gets a lot of stick for is the like kind of wrestling style things they do, which rightly so, because a lot of the people on Robot Wars, they're kind of mild-mannered, kind of quiet engineers and such. But the Vengeance with Firestorm, where they have Zulu sabotaging Firestorm and all that, works perfectly because the Dietor team are born entertainers.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
This is the
They completely destroyed Firestorm as well.
I mean, this is just it's just if you're a fan of that kind of extreme thing, this is like gold stuff.
Yeah,
you just got Zulu being the bomb from that
pink
is.
flag that reads "Firestorm are girlies."
Yeah. And one thing I do love is Derek Foxwell, when he's going on to him, he's like, yes, the War Council has said that you will have your sportsmanship taken. Like, War Council, come on. Yeah, I love the vengeance against Firestorm, even if it isn't.
And also, everyone said like this was a made up vengeance. No, that it legitimately is in the Robot Wars magazine. Zulu said that. The cause of the vengeance. He literally, it legitimately is in one of the Robot Wars magazines where he calls the Firestorm team girls.
Yeah.
Oh dear. I think that's enough about Series 5. Extreme.
No, doesn't it have one? It has a mayhem with Panic Attack and Shere Khan where it loses immediately.
Yeah.
And it has an international where it does nothing. Yes.
It gets the Panic
War,
Attack fight should be noted simply for the fact that once again it enters the arena with something stuck to its flipper, and in this case, it's a picture of Panic Attack. Like, are they trying to confuse them?
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is this fight's probably noticeable for one of the most satisfying pittings in Robot Wars.
Yeah.
I think the intention there was Dietor figuring, well, we're going to get set on fire, but we're going to burn Panic Attack while we do it.
And actually, it wasn't this fight, or it was another fight where Dietor's flipper chain clearly failed before the start of the fight, because you just see like they have the shot of the three robots together before activates, and then you just see Dietor's scoop just fire automatically, like for no reason.
Probably. But it's heat in the Second World Championships. It's in with Flensburger Power, the Revolutionist, and Razor, and only one robot could go through from each of these, and unsurprisingly, it was Razor. So, and that's all you really need to say to it.
So we move on to Series 5.
The legendary Series 5.
It gets a pretty easy win against Dome. Let's just move on from that and get into
fuck Dome. Nobody cares about Dome.
Fuck 'em.
It's funny to think in Series 5 qualifying you have Vader fight Dome, and Dome's the one that gets into the series.
Yes. But
God.
There's only one thing that really matters here. The fight against Tornado.
Oh god! And for the more casual fans who have only started watching Robot Wars with the reboot, this is going to be the one glimpse of classic Dietor they got, because every time Dietor's pedigree was mentioned in the World Series and Series 10, it was the Tornado fight. It's shoving.
Actually, they did show them against Dome and Spawn again.
But they
took it all
from
this
one.
Heat. They basically just showed this heat.
Yeah, but the tornado fight was the one they chose, and I reckon they chose that one because of Tornado's pedigree. Like, they knew that the older fans watching at home would be able to appreciate. Here is Dietor beating the robot that 1 year later would become the completely legitimate reigning champion.
I think it's probably a more boring reason than that, and it's just that Series 5 looks nicer than Series 3 and 4.
Well, obviously, yes.
Yeah, I think that's just basically it. Just looks nice. It looks nicer.
But still, that being said,
if they have the footage, they should release them on DVD.
Well, I mean, you can.
This is the BBC. It's the corporation that hates money.
Let's be fair here, Toa. Let's be fair here. Nick currently has those episodes on his channel for nicer quality than you'll get on DVD.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, this fight. I mean, I know the Ultimate Countdown guys have been having a rag on about this fight, but I honestly, legitimately think it's one of the best fights Robot Wars has ever had.
I think it. I honestly think
it's a.
fight.
I wouldn't rate it that high, but I do think it's a good fight. But yeah, please.
This isn't even.
I definitely. But no, they were talking about removing it from the 100. No, it definitely deserves to be on the 100.
I'll give it that. But honestly, this isn't even my favorite Dietor fight, because you see.
But no, I mean, this is a. I mean. I know it's like everyone recently. People have just been saying, "Oh, Dietor won because Tornado broke down," but during the fight, there were moments where legitimately Dietor was out pushing Tornado. The robot known for pushing.
Yeah, they're shaped the chassis. They're able to get under them.
Yeah, and the thing that we do have to appreciate here is that this is the same Tornado that is obviously after
we just saw an Extreme absolutely dominate.
everything.
Second and
Like,
first place.
with the exception
and
of
fourth.
Razor and King Bee, they win. They dominate Pussycat. They dominate Chaos 2. Just everything that challenges Tornado across those series.
So you would think going into this heat, oh, Tornado's got this one in the bag.
Yeah, and then it loses. Like, it not only does Dietor actually stand up to it, but ultimately it gets the victory because what happens is that the drum seizes up when it ingests some of the fur from Dietor's body, and then Tornado conks out.
Well, you see, it wasn't even.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually the drum that did that. They lost drive because one of the drive chain on one of the sides tornadoes just snapped.
Yeah, but that's
Their drive
But still,
failed them.
that's because Tornado. That's
the
because
drive chain on Tornado snapping is a KO for Dietor.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I think once you get past the I think
you
once you
can't
get past
take
the
away
shock
that
value.
Dietor legitimately beat Tornado.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure, but I mean,
There's no fluke about it.
yeah.
I know, but I'm talking about like what I think of it as like in terms of watching. Like obviously it's an achievement, but I don't think it's one of the like top like greatest fights because yeah, it is just a lot of it's just shoving around. I don't know.
It is one of the greatest
A lot of
upsets of
shoving
the show.
around is
Easily.
Tornado's entire repertoire, and that's got like 12 different fights on the top 100. So.
I mean, but then again, this is from the guy that has a hard-on for Exterminator versus Tsunami, so
Yeah.
you gotta take it with a little bit of
that's
salt.
true.
I will say
That's,
though, what this kind of shows is Dietor. In a way, you can almost argue this kind of shows Dietor still kind of carries some things over from that series 1 to 2 mentality because it shows that Dietor is a competent. It's a competent
They're
bot
in
that
the
can.
chat talking about me now.
It shows that Dietor is like a competent bot that can chug along and like it can chug along and it can push things around and it can. Yeah, Dietor is when it's not against a flipper. Dietor's just is a competent bot that can stay in a fight, take some punishment, and then just kind of. It's almost like this fight's like the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Slow and steady won the battle.
yeah. And,
Oh god, yeah.
and yeah,
Like-
ultimately we get this wonderful shot of Dietor just shoving Tornado straight into the pit. And it's an amazing, amazing thing.
Well, you might say it's not one of the best fights in but it's one of the best moments in Robot Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the first, if you want on a first viewing, definitely yes.
Yeah, even on repeat viewings, like when I rewatch Series 5, which I've done more than I should have, this is always a fight that I look forward to. It's just there's something enjoyable about an underdog victory like this, especially when one of the robots is an eventual champion. With, let's be fair, not a whole lot of improvements between the Series 5 and Series 6 Tornado. It's a
I mean, when you've been seeing a robot like Tornado for Series 4 Extreme, which was aired before Series 5, just completely demolish everything that comes in its path, then get taken out by the robot everyone says never wins.
yeah. It's a really good moment, and it just makes you really want to root for Dietor going into the Heat final, but it's a fight that Dietor has no
If it
chance
just didn't get flipped over immediately, because in this fight Spawn again breaks down.
Shocker.
So if Dietor lasted just a little bit longer,
If they were just able to self-right,
yeah,
if they could just do that once.
Yeah, the thing is that it does give me one of my other favourite Dietor moments, though, which is when Dietor tries to flip itself back over. Like, because it can't self-right, but it gives it a try. But when it tries to self-right, it fires its own fucking eyes off.
Yeah.
I mean, because Spawn again the flipper breaks after the first flip, and then spawn again, and they like because they had I think they had an agreement like if Deitor they were going to immediately put it in the pit, and then spawn again can't even do that, right?
Yeah. So, unsurprisingly, in this fight between Deitor and Spawn Again, Deitor gets set on fire, and Spawn Again breaks down.
Yeah.
Which is...
I mean, that's always... Just imagine if Deitor did do it, they would have been a semi-finalist. Just imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, they would have immediately been drawn against Razor for the third time at this juncture, but, you know...
Yeah.
That would still have been, and that would, to be fair, that would have been a more,
Wild Thing in S3.
Just because of Deitor's general, just because of how much Deitor makes every fight it's in more fun. Razor versus Deitor for round 1 of the Series 5 semi-finals would have genuinely been a more entertaining fight than Razor versus Spawn Again.
I mean, Deitor making it to the semi-finals would have just been incredible on its own. It's nuts too going into the grand final in Series 10. That's the level of just incredibleness it'd be.
Yeah, that is
the silly burning joke bot beats Tornado and Spawn Again.
Oh god, that would have... I mean, that's not really much of an achievement with Series 5 Spawn, but you know.
So, yes.
Yeah.
But that
covers Series 5.
That brings us...
Deitor didn't enter for Series 6.
And that was the last time it appeared in the main UK Championships.
Yeah, Deitor didn't enter into Series...
Yeah, why did it...
Why did
it not come back?
Just fatigue. It cost a lot, and it took up a lot of time travelling to filming, so they just skipped Series 6 because of that. Which I don't think they would have made much difference if they did it, if they had turned up. I can think out of Heat finalists they might have beat Vader and Shredder maybe, but they would have probably just fallen in an LA.
Well, also thinking about just group battles, which
God, we can't go through every group battle. Survived? I think it. Yeah,
no, we can't.
I think it probably just at best it reaches the Heat semi-final and goes out to some flipper or something. It did return through Extreme 2.
I mean,
with.
What the hell did they do to it for Extreme 2?
Yeah,
well, it's got a whole new chassis basically.
Yeah, it's basically a completely new build, and then it loses in round 1 of the tag team.
I mean, it's got a weird narrow pattern.
And it's only just now that they've rebuilt it.
Yeah, it has a crusher now, which is weird.
I mean, let's. I don't think that it wasn't going to crush anything.
No, it was more of a grabber, but
yeah. It returns to defend its tag team title.
And they put it in with Bulldog Breed and Robo Chicken, with Bulldog Breed who single-handedly wins the entire contest.
Yeah, chucks Pussycat out, chucks Deitor against the wall and leaves it.
Yep.
It's that's basically that.
Yeah, and
they couldn't enter Series 7 because obviously Robot Wars switched to Channel 5, which isn't aired in Ireland, so they lost their sponsorship.
They lost their sponsorship, and
which, considering in Series 7 how many foreign robots there were in it.
Yeah, Series 7 has many interesting details surrounding its production.
I mean, a lot of those foreign robots, they were self-financed,
and they were also existing teams from the German and Dutch wars, who had come over,
just hung around.
Yeah.
Honestly, it probably wasn't that much. It probably wasn't that much more to get from like the Netherlands to filming, especially since I think filming. I'm not sure where filming was precisely.
I think they were. Weren't they actually filmed in the same place?
Yeah, because Mentor owned the hangar that the arena was in.
Oh, was it also in Scotland?
No, it wasn't Scotland. It was. I think it was the Classic Series arena was London way.
There you go. I mean, to ship a robot from Ireland to London is probably rather expensive.
Yeah. Whereas if you go from mainland Europe, you just got to get yourself to France and stick it on a ferry.
Yeah, just get through the channel.
Yeah.
I gotta say, going back to this Extreme 2, rewatching the fight, it's so unfair how they treat Deitor as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
the house robots just lay into it, and Matilda just shreds it. And then that was kind of it for Deitor for 15 years.
they were supposed to come back in Series 7. I mean, Series 8
Yeah,
as well.
they did apply. We don't really know anything about what it was. It was apparently a self-built bot, but we don't know. But they did return for Series 10 in the most beautiful way possible. I mean, okay, they were alone about. Specifically, Kadena Machine and
It was
Wheel Guard.
Yeah, it was Kadena Machine covered it
And
first.
Peter Edmonds said he didn't want to return and just be given a loaner bot. He wanted to make his own bot.
Oh,
They
were pretty bad in the World Series with that.
Yeah, the World Series was not the best way to win the show.
But I mean, oh god, they handled Dietor's return perfectly. They roll out the archival footage.
Yes.
They big it up. I mean, Dietor's return was basically full-on fan service, but it was fan service done beautifully.
Honestly, when rumors started coming around that Dietor was going to return, like you saw on Twitter, on Facebook groups and stuff like that, everyone was just like, "Oh my god, yes!" Like no one's ever had that kind of out of all the robots people wanted to come back, Dietor was
That's the
always
funny
up
thing.
there.
When you look at what most people, when they wanted robots to come back, they'll be like Panic Attack, Chaos 2, Hypnodisc, all the big names, and then you got Dietor, which I mean, sure they never won a championship or anything. They were never like all stars, but everyone loves them, and everyone loved seeing them back. Even Darrow O'Brien.
Yeah, and the thing is, Dietor is the perfect robot to have wanted to return for Series 8, 9, and 10, because when you're talking about one of the All Stars coming back, you want it to do well.
You want it.
There's this thing in the back of your mind where you say, I want Chaos 2 to come back, and I want to see Chaos 2 actually go in there and get some good flips in, and maybe even make a heat final, maybe even make the grand final. That's kind of the underlying thing there. But with Dietor, there's no illusions about what you're getting. You know it's gonna die in the heat, and it will be hilarious.
I think also. Go on.
And whereas it's just like Chaos 2 coming back would be exactly like Razor coming back in Series 8, but worse. Because it would just get fucking ruined.
And plus, I think what helps is Dietor is fully brand. If you want Chaos 2 or Hypnodisc, you don't want him coming back looking like a generic wedge flipper or generic flywheel. But Dietor, it doesn't matter what it is. It could have been
as long as it's got a smile and fur on it.
It could have been a full body spinner, but as long as it had that smile and the fur on it, who cares? I mean, there's not much to say about its fights because it just
as much as the setup for it is good, the actual fights that result from it are tragic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Dietor. There was actually talk about re-recording that fight. It was originally supposed to be re-recorded, but they just ran out of time.
But I mean, to be fair, its fights are good because you know what it does. In its second fight, it gets set on fire, it gets sent flying, and as Darrow O'Brien says, there's such a glorious sight as well of Dietor driving along just ablaze. As Darrow O'Brien says, there's little better sights than a flying Dietor on fire.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to its fight with Apollo, they're under no illusions anymore. They're not there to win. They are there to burn.
Yeah, they drive straight into the fire.
The first thing it does is drive itself onto the flame pit
and burn up, and it goes again. But it's such a sight where you see this burning this burning disc robot charging against Apollo.
Yeah, and then Apollo does what Apollo does and just wedges under it and fucking launches it, and
then almost gets the kill lot over.
Oh god, they teased us so many times with that.
Well, apparently because they had to go back to the Series 8 drive because Apollo was just wrecked after the 10-way.
Yeah.
So apparently if Apollo had the Series 10 drive in it, it would have gotten kilowatt over.
Oh god, that would have been so amazing. And
I mean, I think that pretty much does it for Dietor.
Yeah,
it's currently living a very strange kind of third life as a reskin.
Iron Ore 7.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which Iron Ore it was. Yeah, it's currently Iron Ore 7, and Hey, good for him.
He went to China and got to the grand final.
Yeah, got to the grand final of FMB.
Yeah.
And
So,
it got absolutely it got absolutely destroyed in its first round, in its semi-final fight.
Yeah.
So,
And
I think now's a good time to ask, what is everyone's favourite Dietor fight?
it's the tornado fight. I can't lie. The tornado fight.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
No, I do. The Apollo fight is a close second. And the fire.
The Apollo fight
the
is very
Firestorm
fun,
3
yes.
battle in Extreme 1 is pretty solid too.
The Tag Team Terror Fight final is pretty good one as well.
that's
See, that's the one, I can't say I particularly love any of Dietor's fights, but I think my favourite is probably the Tag Team Terror. Seeing Dietor put on just such a really good display against Steel Avenger, making good use of the flipper, getting in hits on both. Yeah, I think that's probably my favourite if I had to pick one.
that's a good shout.
Just thinking about it, of all the other joke bots, like, you know, you got Napalm, which was shit. You know, that was shit, and they knew it was shit. You got Plunderbird, who were like the hype guys that had a shit robot. So were the Chromalock guys, and you got the Dietor guys who, you know, didn't have really an act, but you just loved them.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. That is the thing about Dietor. Like I said, if they had been a shit bot that kind of showed up as, if they had been an actual like genuinely bad bot that showed up as often as they would, yeah, they're you wouldn't hate them because they're just such good personalities. But what makes Dietor even more lovable is they don't necessarily lead to bad fights, because Dietor is a competent machine.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's certainly able to hold its own. So
As Mr. Psycho put it, it's a shit bot, but it's the best of the shit bots.
Yeah. And it's such a good machine. So I mean, obviously that's our favourite Dietor fights. But what is your favourite, with the exclusion of the Inferno Insurrection, because that's cheating, what is your favourite Dietor burning?
see, I was going to say the Inferno Insurrection.
I knew you would, and that's why I ruled it out.
Between me, it's between its Apollo fight or its Steel Avenger fight.
Apollo fight, actually, yeah, I think
The
it might go
Apollo
fight.
one
That is
loses a
beautiful.
few points for it being a self-immolation, but also gains points for being a self-immolation because that's hilarious. And then just, it is burning, spinning robots still fighting on, and then getting launched through the sky by Apollo it's great. I love that as a Dietor burning for the same reasons that I love it as a general Dietor fight.
Yeah.
Oh god, Dietor is so good.
Yeah, it's a bot entirely carried by its personality. Its full personality, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, without the fair, it's basically, it would have just been, it wouldn't have been remembered.
Dietor without the fur would have been it would have been the most forgettable bot around. If you just had that bot and you covered, and it was just like steel, no fur, no smile, yeah, it would have been the most forgettable bot around. But just being able to be set on fire and having Dr. Zulu on board,
Yeah.
can work wonders.
Yeah.
And like you
Oh,
can tell, like all the other, like the crew and everyone loved them, because like I think that Dietor was Craig's favorite team, because obviously his son was on it, but also like you could see like in the interviews he just had this this chemistry with them. Like like in the Dietor fight where as soon as Zulu wins he just jumps in and gives them a hug.
I mean, yeah, if you had to pick a Robot Wars team to have a drink with, it'd be them.
Yeah.
I think that. So yeah, you've got anything else to say about Dietor?
I think we've kind of covered it.
Yep. So
it's that beloved machine.
It is.
yes.
It's just, if you think honestly, when you have like the big three of classic Robot Wars of Chaos 2, Razor, and Hypnodisc, I would say you could probably put Dietor as the number 4.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
that's not even wrong. As much as I love machines like Firestorm, in terms of being iconic, it is the 4th most iconic.
Of being what
competitor
you think
robot.
of Robot Wars.
Like, you could make an argument for at least of the classic series. Like, you could make an argument for Behemoth, but I think most of that's off of the fact that Behemoth is the most successful returning veteran in the reboot. In terms of just a purely iconic robot, I think it's Dietor as the 4th of the classic series.
Well, yeah, that about covers it. Until next time,
Yeah,
see ya.
See ya.